same group of people on Wednesday and these things didn't happen, what would you have to say about that? Right? Because you can't say from tomorrow that these things are going to happen, because we're talking about the administration of the biggest government in the world. Tomorrow it's
Come
not
on
going to
now. Come on,
happen.
Declan. Come on,
That's
Declan. You know
a
what it
MAGA
means.
talk. That you should understand, Declan. That's a MAGA talk.
Saying.
That's
Come
how they
on,
talk.
man. You should understand.
No, but he has to be called out.
Come on,
Tomorrow this
Declan.
is going to happen. Now walk me through this. How will that happen tomorrow?
No,
Give me procedures.
Can I, before you answer, let me just tell you, just in case you don't, you are muted, so hold on, don't keep talking. Before you answer, let me just tell you what will happen. So this night, Trump will sign a bunch of executive orders. Yeah. I think he has 300 to sign. He will sign them, and the next day, different groups will sue the government to stop those executive orders. So none of these things will even happen by that way. So I will give you 2 more minutes to finish, and we welcome John. John, welcome to the show.
Yeah. So Declan, so when I said tomorrow, my Nigerian brothers here, they understand what I mean by tomorrow. I don't mean that I don't mean instantaneously tomorrow. I mean from today henceforth, the process will begin, right? You may not see it in effect by tomorrow, but the process has to begin tomorrow, today. So as from today, 20th of January 2025, Americans will begin to have their senses. When I mean senses, I mean their brain, their critical thinking back again. They will begin to realize that they are human beings, not animals. I mean, when I equate them to animals, I'm belittling the animals, because animals know that they know their gender, right? And they tend to take the responsibility of their genders, and animals know that life is sacrosanct. Life is not what you just waste at will, right? You just want to waste life because you think you have control over your life, right? And the male,
thank God. Internet in
you see now.
You
see now.
We call it Bongo. I'm in a country that is defined as the Bongo country. So I don't even have stable network, you see. So, but from tomorrow, we'll begin to realize that we are human beings, not animals. That we are created by God.
No more killing with guns. Nobody will kill anymore.
Thank you. You believe that you were an animal? Did you think that most people thought that's what you were?
You see?
Thank you. Let's hear other people. I wanted to say that just like Ovia was telling us about how Trump had overwhelming win, Kene just told us about tomorrow things will happen. So maybe it's the language, how we translate things. John, welcome to the show. Let's hear from John, who just joined us. John, do you mind telling us where you joined us from?
Right now I'm in Belgium.
Belgium.
You're lucky to catch me there, because usually I'm in Africa.
Okay, we're in Africa.
Niger.
Okay. Oh, good. So how are the people in Europe? How are they taking this Trump's? Did you watch his inauguration?
Yeah. I kind of was on and off. I was busy with other things, but I did keep an eye on it. Yeah. I think Europeans are, the political class in Europe is going to be up in arms because they hate everything that, America stands for, basically. So yeah, it's going to be interesting.
What did you hear? I mean, what you had, the part you had that impressed you about what Trump has said during the inaugural address?
One thing that I really liked was that when he said that his first executive order would be to reintegrate U.S. servicemen who refused the mark of the beast, the COVID-19 so-called vaccine, and that they would get back to the army with full rights. That's something, and that's a hell of a statement.
Okay. What else that impressed you?
well, the very fact that he came back, because until the very last moment I thought he would be shot before he could get there. I still think they're going to try to kill him one way or another.
Were there things he said that concerns you, like things that were of concern to you that you think may not be good for the country or for the world?
Well, the tax thing is probably
why
a lot of people.
Ovia likes it.
We will see how that works out, because if he wages taxes on European imports, then the Europeans are going to answer in kind.
Do they have the right to do that, Europeans?
I guess, yeah. But let's see how the next few weeks and months, how things go, because Europeans are usually gutless and spineless. So let's see. After a while, they may just sing another song. We'll see, right? Just like you see in Africa, they play hardball until the Africans put them back in their proper place, and then they may change their tune.
What about China and Russia and India?
Well, China is probably Trump's prime concern, from what you can read and hear, and probably rightfully so. That's probably why he wants to get to the Panama Canal back, and he will probably want also to neutralize that Chinese harbor down there. I think I can't remember if it's in Peru or Chile that the Chinese are building a mega port. He will probably want to neutralize that thing as well.
That's Peru.
Yeah, and he will probably want also to pressurize the government of Brazil to tone it down regarding the BRICS involvement. So we'll see. I think some things can be done. Some things may require more than a Trump president. I think like Canada, for instance. I'm of the opinion that Canada stops at the feet of the Rockies. So as crazy as it sounds, I think a part of Canada could be absorbed into the United States. If you think of British Columbia, Alberta, Yukon, Northwest Territories, it would be interesting to build a geographical continuum all the way to Alaska. It would be also ironic in a way if the Americans were pushing Albertans independentist movements, which are existing, right? And then play by the Russian playbook, basically what the Russians did in Donbass, which was to push the Novo Russia activists that got pounded by Kiev, and then the Russians stepped in. Maybe the Americans will do something like this, but I don't know. We'll see. But that would require more than just a Trump administration. That would be probably a strategic thing for the long haul. However, I think when it comes to Greenland, there I have less reservations. I think he will want to get that done. If you study psychology and the kind of legacy that he wants to leave behind, I wouldn't be surprised if the U.S. was to absorb Greenland. Secretly, I would hope that they would also absorb Belgium, by the way. But that's not going to happen. Yeah.
Is there any situation where that you may prefer to come back to America and live in America instead of hanging out around the world, Europe, Africa? Is there anything that Trump will do that will make you think, okay, I'm coming back?
I don't know, honestly, because there's so many things. I think to go back to the U.S. that I would love to live in, I would need a time travel machine. To go back to the U.S. before 1913, basically, when it was a different country with much less government. I have a deep allergy to government. I was myself a civil servant of a European government, so I know how toxic governments are, and the less you have it, the better you fare.
So yeah, because I really like what you are saying in terms of less government and knowing the people that first came to the United States, they left Europe because of
Precisely that.
yeah. So but don't you see that the Republican Party, we know that the Democrats are fully into government control of everything. Republican Party, they are also moving in that direction, saying that the government.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? You have many Republicans that are Republicans in names only and who are statists, basically. I mean, the federal government is out of control, frankly. When I see the EPA now trying to ban classic cars in California, give me a break. What is this nonsense? There are many government agencies that should be defunded and disbanded. I think Milei, actually, in Argentina, is probably an example to follow. He closed so many ministries that were toxic to the country, frankly. If the Americans could do the same, that would be great.
So one question I always have for people who believe in limited government is when you have like the Republicans will say, we don't want you to tell us what to do. We don't want the government to tell us what to do. But then they turn around and say they want to tell women what to do, what to do with their bodies. How do you handle that? Do you think there's an exception to that rule?
I'm kind of agnostic or kind of neutral on that issue. I think women are master of their own body, and they're but at the same time, abortion of kids that are 8 months into a pregnancy, that I find questionable, highly questionable.
Trump didn't talk about gun control at all. I don't think I heard him mention anything about gun control. Where do you stand on that? And how do you think, living in Europe and being an American, how do you think that?
I'm American. I'm a lousy Belgian, but
you're not an American. I didn't know.
But he's, Rudolph, he's also Canadian.
Okay.
Well, honorary.
You ask him how he feels about Canada becoming part of the
yes.
US.
Oh, I didn't know. I thought you were an American.
No, I lived all over the place. There is hardly a country where I haven't been living. So,
okay. So how do you feel about, there was this idea by a Canadian politician that instead of America taking Canada, that actually Canada should just take California and all the left-leaning states, even Vermont, and form a bigger country and leave Trump and the Republicans to have their red states as a country. What remains for America? What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's the danger. You shouldn't absorb the whole of Canada, because then it becomes basically a democratic state forever. But if you take the best part of it, which is Alberta, British Columbia, Northwest Territory, Yukon, these places are conservative. So yeah, and there are historical precedents. If I remember well, Washington State and British Columbia were together at some point. Correct me if I'm wrong, Declan, but I think they were.
No, we were, and so I come from the U.S. state of Maine, and 2/3 of the state that I grew up in was Canadian, and we took it from you. I'd be happy to give it back.
Right.
But I think the conversation about Canada is not literally taking it back physically, but economically, and that's very feasible if you calculate the kind of trade that goes in between the two of them. So I think that's where Trump is focusing on. And I will advise us, don't know how to just say something lousy, but if you go down deep, there's something that they're actually focusing on. in terms of business relation, economic wise, it's very easy for them to take over Canada. Not necessarily they want to go and observe it the way he's talking about. So there's something there to watch at in terms of trade influence that America have over Canada. So it's not something that is off the table, but it's just not the way he put it. We are going to take over Canada, but it's also on the pipeline when push comes to shove. And Rudolph, you are. It seems as you are against government, small government. The video you play, Reagan, that is the foundation of his regime. Reduce government. That's what he run on and he won on. And pretty much, I think whether he did or he didn't.
8 years after, what did he reduce?
But it started with war. That's another thing. When you are comparing the two of them, there's two different personality here, right? His whole regime was war. I don't know if you take that into consideration.
No, we're saying a limited government, which Reagan blamed the government for being the problem of the country. But at the end, what did he do? Did he reduce the size of government? No.
Again, it goes into the rhetoric. It's not politics, right?
So it's not. It doesn't make any sense, Let me ask you, John. What did I think I did already about gun control? Being that in Europe, do you think that it's a problem in America? The fact that every year about 30-something thousand people are killed through gun violence.
Well, the fact that people are killed by gun violence is a problem, but the problem is not the guns. It's like having car accidents. Are you going to ban the cars because you have people dying in cars? The problem are the people behind the weapons. I can leave a loaded gun on a table here, if we were physically together, and we could spend the entire night not touching that gun, and nothing bad will happen. Now, if there is one unhinged personality among us, then something could happen, like an accident or something. So I don't see.
So hold on, because I want to understand. If you say it's not the problem, is not the gun. Why is it that in European countries where there are no guns, or where there are guns, even? Okay, I'm making the argument for you, but no, because I know the story. I know the story about guns, and so in European countries where there are no guns, people don't die from gun violence.
What is wrong with having sensible gun control laws and measures?
I think this could be discussed because there are countries like Czech Republic where practically everybody carries a gun, or Switzerland where you have many citizens not only having handguns but also assault rifles at home, and you never hear of Switzerland. You never hear of gun violence in Switzerland. You probably almost never hear of gun violence in Czech Republic. Same for many ex-Soviet republics where people have access to AK-47s. Not a problem. I remember during my time in Uganda, I remember waking up in Kampala early in the morning, and I was stunned to see hundreds of cyclists commuting to work on their bikes, and I couldn't believe what I saw on their back. All of them had Simonov rifles. It's a very powerful weapon to have in the hands of civilians. But yeah, here they were going to work with their Simonov on their back, security guards in Kampala, and you never heard of a gun violence problem. It's all about education, mental health issues that are huge in the U.S. That's where the problem is.
So you think the American
let me ask this question.
Can I come in here?
There was an assassination attempt, at least one, on Trump in Pennsylvania. What occurred there? Like, is this a gun control issue? What is the actual issue? Because a lot of people are wondering.
Well, the thing is this: if you outlaw guns, all the outlaws are going to have guns. That's the thing, because criminals don't care about abiding by.
But that guy acquired the gun legally.
Oh no, he took the gun of his father, apparently.
But that gun was acquired lawfully.
Yeah, but I reckon that if he couldn't get his hands on the gun, on the gun of his father, he would have probably found another one somewhere else. I don't know if you remember that murder case of this insurance company CEO recently. The criminal apparently made his own gun with a 3D printer. So, the genie is out of the box. There are too many guns out in circulation in the U.S. You can basically forget about gun control. It's not going to work.
So people should continue to die. Is that the where we're?
No, people should invest in education. Better education, more affordable, accessible to large numbers of people. And also, don't close all hospitals and open hospitals instead of spending all your money on weapon systems to wage wars all over the world. I just heard yesterday that there was a place in Belgium, quite remote countryside type of thing, that are closing all the hospitals. So that now when people will have, cardiovascular accidents, they're almost certain to die because the nearest hospital will be at an hour drive, which is way too far. Why are Western countries closing hospitals instead of building them? And why are they spending their money on useless pursuits like arming Ukraine? It's ridiculous.
Okay.
Can I come in?
Okay, go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I think to actually understand and appreciate the gun debate, you have to go back to at the beginning. Why gun in the first place? The amendment came into life in 1791, the same time or the same day that the free speech amendment was also enacted, 1791. Rudolph was alluding to the fact that the founders of America ran away from Europe because of government, a small government, right? So what they did with these two amendments is that they understand where they are coming from. Which when I was saying that Europe, European Union is gone as we see it, it's because of the life they used to before now. They know they see eye to eye. It's always war and all that. So when the founders of America come to that point, they said, okay, we need free speech, freedom of religion, freedom of order. But in order to guarantee that, there's a need for us to have a well-regulated militia. That's how they frame it, right? So in order for you to protect that freedom of speech, however, you need guns. So
Yeah,
they go down. Yeah, they go. So it's actually for the gun is to protect free speech, right? So the question you will ask yourself is that what is the probability that we will have a government one day? This country will have a government one day that will rise against the people. So how will the people defend themselves? So that's why it's time for. So for you to understand why nobody wants to give it up, you have to go back down to that route and understand why. Because the debate started right from there too. It's not that the debate of gun is not new. It started from right that 1791. But I have a question for you, John. You say you don't like the tax. What Trump talking about tax? What aspect? Because what he is saying is in that external revenue office that he wants to create, which is instead of taxing the citizen because they believe that the economy is bad, instead of taxing the citizens to build the economy bad, just like what Tinubu is projected in Nigeria with the tax wars, Trump would rather say we will tax external countries. For you to bring your product here, we are going to tax you. Instead, we are going to put on tariff. And for you to understand that very well yourself, to go back to the William McKinley administration. So what is it that you don't like? There? It's not taxing the Americans; it's taxing the external factor. I mean, it has implication too. That means this will be expensive for both sides. So what is it that you don't like?
Well, it's too early for me to say that I don't like this or that about the taxes. I think we need to see how the dynamic is going to play out. But there is a risk that basically a lot of goods are going to be that basically the consumers, that's the American people, are going to be driven out of the market because prices are going to be so high if there is a tax war between the US and Europe. But to be confirmed, to be seen, to be observed, to be assessed, we will see, because as I said, Europeans are spineless. So
Is it that they are spineless or America
the
runs their economy?
the US could well tell them, okay, if you don't play ball, you know what, we pull out from Germany, and we'll let you deal with Igor and the bear, and let's see how that works out for you.
Okay, John, let me ask you. This is I teach post-colonial African history to students here in New York, and one of the subjects we spend a week on that, which is on Congo and what Belgium did in Congo. So I've never talked as someone from Belgium, I've never talked to anybody from Belgium. There was one guy when I was in Nigeria one time. One guy from Europe came to Nigeria with handcuffs, and he said he came to apologize for what they did in Africa. I wonder, are people your generation in Europe? What do you feel? Do you study even what happened in Congo in school?
I couldn't tell you honestly, because I haven't lived in Belgium for quite a while. So I'm not, in tune with, with how people think about these issues. I think that they're pretty much, the impression I have is that they're not too concerned about the
Colonial
era. They kind of forgot about it.
But do you guys know how Africans feel about it?
Well, I do, because I work in Africa. So I certainly do, and all the more so that I now operate in France Afrique, where the arrogance of the French was just mind blowing, right? Even up to recently, it was just I was embarrassed to have a French name and crossing the border, So yeah, I was hoping, okay, I'm not French. Okay, I'm a Belgian. I'm nothing these people. So
Can I rephrase the question?
No, not yet. No, okay, reframe. Okay, do
Did you get your education in Belgium?
Yeah.
The foundation was built by what your ancestor did, so you benefited from it too.
So, John, okay, thank you. Let me just say, so you're aware of how Africans feel about what happened. Are you concerned? I know that Macron and the recent statement he made about Africa should be grateful that these countries, and I understand. But do you fear that a new generation of Africans are coming up? If you look at what's happening in the French-speaking parts of Africa, even in the English-speaking parts of Africa, and they are not really happy about what's happened in the past. They're beginning to read about it, to study it, and that it might maybe 10, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, it might be different in terms of they might want to take action.
Yeah, to be seen, because in some of the countries, the situations are so complicated, and there is so much hardship facing the populations that people may have more immediate priorities, like making money, getting their kids to school, having proper let's say security in the country, so that the economy can pick up. And there's so much to do in Africa, which is more urgent than just blaming those bloody French from how many 100 years ago. But what I could see is probably the rise of a new Pan-African intellectual elite in the coming years, and whether these people can pick up where all the old crocodile dinosaurs, dictators of Africa have left off is still an open question. But that would be, I think, the pressure coming from these people will be significant in the long term, I think, and some things will have to to change in Africa. Let's see how that will work. But I can see it in some of the countries where you have like junior to mid-senior level managers in administrations, police, security service, army, business, who want something more than just anti-colonial rhetoric. They want development. They want wealth creation. They want to go ahead. They want their kids to have a future, and they realize that their future is not migrating to Europe, where basically because the Western world, for all intended purposes, is slowly becoming a hellish place. That's why actually Trump was elected, because of the resentment of the population against this monster stakeholder capitalism which is taking place and which is crushing freedom and prosperity. And many of those Western countries have become basically inverted versions of themselves because precisely of that stakeholder capitalism, as they call it. And some of those young Africans see that and they realize, hey, wait a minute, we have a wonderful continent which is full of wealth and opportunities. Why don't we start getting ahead? We could be much further than those stupid Europeans freezing in the cold up there.
So I will let other people jump in. Okay, just one last question. So as an European in Africa, when you see the Chinese coming into Africa and the activities in Africa, are you reminded of what the Europeans did?
Yeah. But I don't know if the Chinese are going to do better, to be honest. Let's see. I have my doubts about it. We will see. Let's see in 10 years where we are regarding China in Africa. It's obvious that everybody in the world wants to have their hands on the natural resources in Africa. We'll see how the Chinese are doing. We'll see how the Russians are doing. In Sahel, you can see the Russians active, but it doesn't mean that they're necessarily. It's not because they're active that they are successful. I can see where the Africans supporting the Russians in Africa are coming from, but they will soon realize that, okay, aside from AK-47s and ammunition and vodka, there's not much for the population, basically, right?
That Russia can bring, but China is bringing the goods.
Yeah, well, let's see. Let's see if the Chinese promise will, let's say, mesh with African aspirations. Because, yeah, maybe yes, maybe no. We'll see.
So one more. The French are now kicked out from some African countries. If that trend continues and most European countries are kicked out, will Europe survive? How much impact will that have on the lifestyle of Europeans if they don't leave Africa?
I couldn't tell you because I don't have access to the numbers. So difficult to say.
A former French president said that France will be a third world country without Africa. Do you think that's true?
Well, it's already a third world country, as far as I'm concerned.
So, JP, just because
I told them before, they don't want to agree with me. Oh, thank you.
We were having this conversation earlier, and Ovie, who just spoke, says that Europe is done. It's finished.
Yeah, that's the thing, and it was done years and years ago. There is a book written by Pat Buchanan. That book was
Pat Buchanan, the former libertarian presidential candidate in the United States, and yeah.
Yeah, and this guy wrote this book, I think, in the early 90s, and the title was The Death of the West. And it was describing, Europe is a dead man walking. So, yeah.
John, why did Europe die?
I think probably, well, the reasons are manifold, but it's probably first here, yeah, a lack of vision. Also, you can see, I'm not judging this. I'm not saying that it's good or it's bad. I'm just factually watching it. I see that the as soon as Europeans stopped connecting with the religious world, things went south. Now, is it good or bad? I don't know. I just see that historically, that seems to be a trend. They veer away from religion, religious practice, and everything else, and then that coincides with a crumbling of their civilization, so to speak. So yeah, I don't know. And also lack of union. There is fragmentation on the continent, and you can see the diverging interests that are there, and that are preventing Europeans from getting ahead in any meaningful way. You can see, for instance, that Germany has been playing nice with the United States, but to basically to the detriment of its own national interest. So yeah.
Will America avoid the same fate?
That's too early to tell, I think, because the U.S. is a major. I mean, it's a big chunk of population in a big continent which is politically unified, and they can turn things around quite quickly. Something that the Europeans can never do. So they may have losses here and there, but all in all, at the end of the day, they will just turn things around in their favor. So if there is such a thing as an American decline, it has nothing to do with what we see in Europe, which is really like going downhill super fast. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Declan.
Can I say more on what he said? What he said was very interesting. I would like to, would you mind, Rudolph, if I can explain further the context of why I think Europe actually died, from its powerful time as an empire. From what he said some interesting things, right? And I agree with a lot of the things he said, but just to emphasize and explain further. So if you look at what happened after the Second World War, when the European powers were in conflict with each other, the Soviet Union against Germany, fascist Germany, and all that conflict. After the Second World War, when the communists won at the Soviet Union, when they won and they were trying to spread communism at that time towards Western Europe, across from the east to the west, the US reacted by ensuring they implement a radical plan, because at that time, Europe, particularly Western Europe, were weakened by that war. In fact, a lot of the so-called colonies, which are in Africa today, were weakened due to that war. So after that war, what you had was Europe was weak, and the US came in and they implemented what they call the Marshall Plan.
Absolutely.
So the peak of Europe died at that moment because the geopolitical deals that were made with a lot of the European powers at that time, the UK, Germany, France, were with the US. I think France rebelled under Charles de Gaulle. He rebelled, but it was very limited. So they had this Marshall Plan where Europe and the US was going to reconstruct so many parts of Western Europe. But also at the same time, they lost their sovereignty, their military sovereignty, their economic sovereignty. So they were now under the dictates of the United States. So I said that was even the beginning of the end of European power.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, to support
Then
his argument,
yeah,
I think we should be realistic. When you talk of Europe, it's only Germany, France, and Britain. Let's be realistic. Before the First World War, Second World War, who are these people, right? Only Germany, the only country that stands their ground is Germany, which America was actually scared of in terms of intellectual, medicine, you name it, right? That's why when the coming of America to the First World War, helping Britain and French and the Allied defeat Germany, was the end pretty much of Europe, because they had to come together and impose the heavy sanction, that Treaty of Versailles that we all know today. So it was to decimate them. So Europe, I say, is a superpower. No, it's all hinged on America. That is when Jide was saying that in an attempt to spread communism, America has to come in. That's what they mean. America has to come in and put them together. That's why I was trying to. We are going back and forth with Declan, which also within the European Union and NATO. That is, they are all sitting on America. So the question you are, is America going to face the same fate? That is what they are trying to prevent. So Europe dying final death for them to survive is welcome if you listen to Trump rhetoric. And that is what our brother here, John, is trying to say, that they are all chihuahuas. To use the Pepe Escobar as a language. they are American chihuahuas, right? So,
yeah.
so their economy, all their economies hinge on American supplies and everything. So, and the only thing that is keeping Germany in kind of say, okay, I see the German, is the glorification of the combustion engine. Now that they lost out in that competition, which is where I was expecting John to go to in terms of the tariff, right? And again, it also goes to the question of Rudolph, who is the American enemy, right? If you are not agreed to join us to fight this war against China, however I want to fight it, you are an enemy. And that's exactly what happened to the French. At the onset of the Ukraine war, French were drawing their leg over. They don't want to come in fully. Hence, you have to unplug them from there. What makes them what they have today, which is the Sahel region. You have to unplug them from there. If you pay attention, since the coup started against France, they came into the fight against Russia in full force. They were in full say, we are going to put force on the ground. When Russia told us, they come, if you try it, that's the end of you. So when we talk about the concept of Europe, forget them now. They are just doing not, they don't get anything. It is that the First World War, which Jide rightly point on, after the America came and won the First World War, they allowed the European country to build their country by savaging Africa, which is what 1844 is all about. Now that the First World War has destroyed everything that you guys have, go into the other continents, share the colonies of Germany, and build your country back. Now that was between First World War and Second World War. After Second World War, America had to say, you know what, let those guys go, let those other colonies go, because we are coming. We need to, now that we conquer the continent of America, Europe is the next, and by extension, the whole global war. So that's where they are now. Are they going to survive? That's the fact they are now. But from experience, they don't survive 4 or 5 times. So I'm pretty sure they will survive. But that survival is injured Germany, is injured Europe as we know it no more.
Okay, hold on. Before John, before KJ, I'll call one question for John before I go to KJ. I'm looking at this. It says that your trading partner, Belgium, their largest trading partner is Germany. How is Belgium keeping away the Chinese? Or how is Europe keeping away the Chinese from their market?
Not very well, as far as I can tell. I see a penetration of China in our economy and probably our political world as well. Actually, if it was up to me, if let's say tomorrow I'm the Prime Minister of Belgium, I would establish a special investigation committee, public inquiry committee on pro-Chinese activities in Belgium. And it would be endowed with serious investigative powers. And believe me, I would probably investigate a lot of people and a lot of organizations, public, private, and all. Yeah, but we're not there yet, and I think we won't because, as I said, Europeans are spineless, basically. So.
Let me go back to
Rudolph, for the sake of viewers, there's a book called Kaput. It's written by the German. It came out late last year. Go and read it. Then you understand everything about what is going on within that. It's called Kaput.
okay.
That's Kaput. I think that's German language.
You know, Europe could have turned communist and could have been integrated into the Soviet Union by 1949, 1950. It's only because America was there that it didn't happen. So yeah, if now under Trump we have an isolationist America with a major observable pull out of American forces from Europe, then I expect things to become quite dynamic and kinetic on the European continent.
Okay, let me go back to the colonial era. There were a lot of people in Britain, I know more of Britain than what happened in Belgium and France, that believed that they did not benefit from colonial activities, so building colonies across the world. They use India as an example, but Indians are saying that they lost a lot, that Britain benefited from that. What do you think, based on your own understanding of your country, Belgium? Do you think that Belgium benefited from colonial enterprise?
Belgium, I don't know, but some private enterprises and the royal family of Belgium certainly did.
Okay.
Yeah. It doesn't. It probably doesn't.
So on that point, actually, right? Because Belgium has a very unique history, independent of its colonial escapades. Do you think that there's any uniqueness to Belgium history that should preclude it from being demanded of in terms of the colonial excesses that occurred, right? Which are undeniable. If we look at what transpired in DRC, for example, that was under Belgian power. Is there anything there that is more complicated than many people would argue?
Well, I'm not a specialist on that subject, but you probably have to also factor in some tribal and religious issues that were at play in the Congo Belgium at the time. I think it's all those things together produced what we know as the colonial past of Belgium, right? But you have to keep in mind that these Belgian colonists could never rule over that part of the world without the active support of African population. That's something that is very often forgotten because they were not like an overwhelming mass of people coming there and colonizing the Congo. The Africans were outnumbering them by much, right?
Yeah, but it's
so
not.
There is probably an internal conversation to have in Africa as well on that subject.
Yeah, it's not just about population, because African countries, we can say kingdoms, those that are structured that way, that resisted, they encountered a super overwhelming force from the Europeans. In so many places in Benin, in Benin Kingdom, for instance, the British basically destroyed them.
But there were strong kingdoms that always resisted European colonialism. If you look at Ethiopia, for instance,
Ethiopia was
the reason why Ethiopia resisted colonialism was because at that time Ethiopia built a civilization that they were able to connect and ally with Russia, the Russian Empire, through Orthodox Christianity. The Russian Empire actually supported them with the military support, the weapons and everything. But when you look at Africa, I think I would kind of agree with John on that a little to some extent. So the thing is, if you look at a lot of those African kingdoms at that time, pre-colonial Africa, you had traitors that actually facilitated the slavery and colonization that happened. So I think that was what he was referring to. And a lot of these African kingdoms, they were, I don't want to say isolated, but they were not as technologically advanced to connect to some of these other forces that could actually help them resist. So those two things in place actually had a setback on why I was a decline in African civilization.
Jide, that will not apply to Belgian Congo, because Belgian Congo was basically initially a private colony of King Leopold the second, and
it was a private property, basically.
Yes, but eventually it was taken over by Belgium. But the point is, if you look at the history, I think that logic that there was African collusion with King Leopold would not hold water, because this was paternalism. It was wicked. It was it's not, if you read the history, it's not something that you want to talk about. It was outright brutality, one of the worst that we ever seen in the world. People's hands cut off. At the time Belgium left the Belgian Congo, you didn't have up to, at independence, you didn't even have up to 30 people, graduates, college graduates from that country. Was basically, the resources was totally ripped off. So it wasn't a question of Africans colluding. It was just that they were totally decimated, brutalized.
Yeah.
And
But again, sorry. I think timing is everything. We have to put the date into consideration. Congo established that free trade, Belgium established that adventure started in 1885. It's
I would like to
very
respond to
important.
what Tony said. So what the thing is, we need to look at the timeline, right? Before Belgium came, the kingdom of the Bakongo kingdom was already weakened. That's the point.
That's
So
what I'm saying, that the timing is very important.
The error was they welcomed in the Portuguese. Because I think the Congo king was the first African king that became a Christian. So they welcomed them in. They brought the Portuguese, not the Belgian kingdom now, the Portuguese Empire. They came to Congo. That time they were prosperous. They came in, they brought in their religion, they accepted them, they welcomed them. Then with that, they started to collude with perpetrators, with traders within the kingdom, to start enslaving other Africans. Over time, that kingdom now became weakened and they were fighting each other. Then that was when eventually the Belgian kingdom now came.
All right, let's not go too much. I just want to point out that if Trump goes to Panama next week or next month or in 1 year and takes over Panama, nobody will in 200 years from now say that, oh, there were Panamanians Panamanian, how do you call them? Who colluded with
right.
Trump wanted to take it, and he went and overwhelming force. There was no European country that wanted any part of Africa that didn't try to take it by force. You don't need the people there. The people can resist, can walk. It doesn't matter. They will get it because they had power. They had the weapons. Let's welcome KJ to the show. KJ, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Dr. Damages. And I want to remind you two other people. Thank you, brother.
I didn't know. I was.
All right. Thank you so much. I followed them, for over 3 hours now. I've been following and listening. I wanted to come in, but you didn't see me, so I took off. I want to commend you on politics, because you are the only lizard among the hens. I could see the way I tried to pick you apart, but you held on until Declan came in.
I'm the only one. I'm the only one that is not American. Can you imagine that kind of thing?
I was hearing you from the background. It was a good one. And
according to Trump and Declan, I'm illegal.
Yeah, you held forth. You held forth properly, and I appreciate Declan always. You come with a new side of it. There's something he touched on which we didn't actually discuss a bit. And I'll take you back a bit here. When he talked about Trump having something to bargain with, going towards Greenland, I thought you were going to ask him to expatiate that, because I think as a master what do you call it now, negotiator, I think what Trump is trying to do is to have some things to go with in hand. He's not necessarily going to take over those places, but he's saying that, look, I can do this, I can do this, as a way of showing himself up for maybe any or other international discussion he's going to have in future. That these are possibilities that this way can also open to him. And, I pray that this time has come in. And I want to appreciate John, too. I've listened to you. You made a lot of, you gave us insight as what a European would think about, what the mindset of a European and even that of Africa. So it's very, very robust, and I appreciate all the contributions. Even when I don't agree with them, I'm not a politician, but I don't agree with, my good friend here. That's the only place we disagree, but it's okay. We can't always agree on everything. What I wanted to say is, can we talk about the negativity that comes from the media? And I want Declan, if possible, to also touch on that. Can the American media now see Trump from a different perspective, other than what the narrative they've been carrying about him? Because I don't think that somebody can be this bad, this terrible, and yet over 70 million people will still vote him back into office. It's either that those 70 million people are also bad, or something's gone wrong with that society. And now that the elections are over, can we leave campaigning and face what the man is doing, not begin to infer what we think he might do? Because what he's going to do is going to be within some 24 hours to 48 hours to the whole of the 4 years. And we will all see that unfold. I believe that the American media, and I stand to be corrected, have not been fair to Trump. The man cannot be all bad. There must be some other things he has done. Just like every other president before him, and indeed in all our countries, have not been good in all they do. Some of them have done very terrible things, chiefly of which some people have been pardoned for going back 10 years in the last 24 hours. The media is not talking about that. We're rather talking about what Trump is likely going to do. And sometimes it doesn't give us the understanding or open mind to be able to appreciate when the guy does good, to say has done good. And Dr. Rudo, well done. You have sat through. I mean, look at since you came in and you've still been here. I owe you a cup of
That's
tea.
power of Trump.
Yes.
That's power of Trump.
I owe
Now
you a
Trump
cup
make
of
a
tea,
support.
man. So
Trump
I
got him
appreciate
out.
all of you. People have done well, I appreciate all the angles you have brought. And that's just what I wanted to say. I appreciate the discussion. I'm not one who is into the economics of, the discussion. So I really enjoyed that. I will go back and dust up my books and begin to read more. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, KJ. Before I come to you, Michael, let me put a question based on what KJ said. And to you, John, and to Declan, so KJ was talking about the media, that the media has been unfair to Trump and whether they will change their strategy. And he mentioned something that I'm interested in. He said that 70 million people voted for Trump. And because of that, he couldn't be that bad. John, I know you were not there when Hitler was in charge in Germany, but didn't Hitler get the votes too?
Again?
Didn't Hitler get the votes?
Like, really? Are you really want to compare that?
But he was saying, well, what KJ was saying was that because 70 million people voted for Trump, that he couldn't have been that bad.
No, Rudolph, and my people, I'm Igbo. They say you don't shave a man's head in his absence. I'm still here. You could have asked me for clarification.
No, I believe what you said. So I believe what you said.
You cannot shave my head in my absence. I'm here. Let me present my hair so you can shave it.
No. I want to accept,
because there's only one way of taking over political power in the United States that I know, which is by election. You campaign, and at least it's not Africa, so we cannot say Trump rigged his way in. And the point that Ovie was trying to make all this while that you guys have been attacking him is that Trump is the only Republican that have won more black votes in history than that we know of. He has won Latino votes. He won more Black American votes. He won more.
No, hold on. You say he won more. What do you mean by more? More than other people, or
yes,
more than other Republicans?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we understand.
It's there. You can look it up.
No, but also, I don't want to go into picking.
Hold
on, KJ. When you say more, if let's say Reagan got 10 million, and the population of America was 200 million at that point, and Trump got 20 million, and the population of America now is 300 and something million. I won't say more unless I'm sure that the percentage would mean that it's more than that of Reagan. So I don't throw out things without checking them. That's what I'm saying. And sometimes people think I'm just making.
Trump is not going to contest the game. We don't know
Okay,
you're not going to run again.
But it's important to be accurate. What we say.
Whichever way you look at it,
The accuracy that he
whichever
won.
way you look at it, Trump won the swing states. Am I right? He won all the swing states.
Yeah,
Despite
he did.
what the media has said, that he was going to be beaten hands down. And the swing state was going to go
KJ.
I'm coming, sir. Hold on, sir. Let me end. Let me land. You see, I understand that you're a Democrat. No, it's okay. I don't have any problem.
I'm just trying to be fair.
I'm just trying to be
And it's
fair.
also in the media. It's also in the media. So
Observer. I'm just a fair observer.
Yeah,
He
but
won
KJ,
all
before you
the
continue,
hold on, sir.
you will miss
He
it. You
won
will miss
all
the
swing
point.
states, despite what the media have been saying to us, that is going to be beaten thoroughly. He won all of them.
But the media is not saying it anymore. That's what I'm trying to point out. The media has moved on.
No,
Okay?
the media have not moved on.
What media are you talking about?
are you not a media,
The
Dr.
traditional
Dameji? You are still on
in
it.
America has not moved on.
What media? What media is saying that
media in America, the CNN.
What are they
ABC,
saying? What are they saying?
They are still saying things that are not applicable to what Trump is doing right now. In fact, I just left Jen Psaki talking about Trump's distance right there on what do you call it, NBC. She's there
saying
okay?
What?
Okay, no, you tune on because you say what media? I'm calling the media now.
All right. So let me get to something that maybe John can give us insight, and Declan. Declan, talking about media in America. I don't know if you still follow the media in America. Do you think that the media in America is different from the way they cover Trump now, or they've been covering Trump, is different from the way they covered Reagan, or go back George Bush Senior second, considering this whether they are Republican, Democrat, and whether the media is liberal or conservative? Because if you say, I know probably what I suspect that KJ is talking about is that for a conservative like KJ, okay, when you listen to how the liberal media are covering Trump, it troubled you the same way if a liberal is listening to how Fox was covering Obama. I don't think it's going to be different. But sometimes we don't think about our own biases in how we perceive what we're seeing. There were Democrats I know who were horrified when the way the conservative media covered Obama, and the way you are horrified about how they are covering Trump now. But I see it from both sides. But let me hear from Declan and John. Declan, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, look. So if we look at how media was covering things under Reagan, I mean, we didn't have a 24-hour media in those days. We didn't have the pressure to deliver on ratings in the same way that we do now. And so, yeah, the coverage is different. The problem is genuinely the kinds of attitudes and positions that we've seen, I think, also differ, right? Like the United States, had more consensus around social issues in the 1980s than they do now, and maybe that's not right? So if you look at how Americans viewed gay rights and transgender stuff, which we talked about earlier, there was unquestionably consensus in terms of, we don't want to talk about gay marriage. We don't think that this thing exists. Trans rights are, irrelevant. And so the country was different. And that's good. That's okay. Right. The problem is that we have lost a consensus around what is reality. And because we don't have an understanding and an anchoring around what is truth, we have all sorts of weird shit going on, and the country is not unified. That's how I see it personally.
All right. Thank you, John. John, you have any?
No, I agree with Declan. America is more polarized now than it was 20 years ago. But also, I would say that most American institutions of education are producing overwhelmingly left-leaning intellectuals who are,
That's true too.
yeah, who are much less likely to show sympathy or fairness to conservatives or even libertarians, for that matter.
Why is that? Do you know?
Yeah, that would probably deserve an in-depth study. I think it's connected to how communists and proto-communists infiltrate the intellectual world and artistic world in general. There are very good books that document that in depth. Yeah, it's always been there. It's been there since, I would say, the 30s, but it only got worse after, with the Vietnam War and all. Yeah.
Okay.
Can I respond to that?
No, hold on, Jide. I want to go to Michael and John and John Abba. But John, I will come back to you later, and I want you to tell us something about Islam in Europe. What you think will be the outlook 50 years from now. Michael, welcome to the show, and maybe you can give us your take on Trump's inauguration before.
Oh, okay. All right, Dr. Rudolph. Good afternoon, everybody.
Nice.
And thank you so much for inviting me again, and I'm glad to be here. John, good to see you for the first time. And Declan, you have always been a regular expert on this show. You know, I enjoy your take. Well, for me, I will confess, I'm a Democrat. That's an honest truth about it. But we are in for another 4 years. We just hope to give him. I'm optimistic some kind to see what he can do, because a lot of things this president says is kind of rhetoric that we need to wait and see the outcome of it. Because remember, he was there 4 years ago. He said he wants to build a wall. We never see it accomplished. So, but this time around, because we know how politics work in America, everything has to go through legislative process before he can go into this thing, even though he has the power to sign it into power in 90 days until the Congress decide to review and see if they can make it a law. So for me, I'm just having an open mind as a president. I cannot say it's not my president, it's my president. He's going to create law that I may like, I may not like, and I will just stay to make sure I stay my intent, my motive of intention to follow him up, to stay abreast from negativity, to have my own sanity. Because when you see government, you go crazy about it. So that's my opinion about Trump company, next 4 years. Because to me, I can see that he's going to implement a lot of things that he has no more chance to come back. So this is it for him. So for me, it's like he wants to change, and then things that he knows he's not going to come back, and it's going to be on the book. Because number one, this man, like you say, he loves history. He wants to be on history, that he did this and did that. That's Trump. Because I live in New York, and I follow him a lot in his business. He loves history. He likes to make things like I did it. I mean, you guys can see his persona is like, I, that's narcissistic kind of attitude. That's him. So you can see that and he likes the idea that if people tell him you can't, he says, okay, you wait and see. That's Trump. Don't tell him you can't. If he say I can do this, just say okay. But the moment you answer him back that you can't, you allow him to go ahead.
You say that?
Yeah. Huh?
You will be fired.
Exactly. Because look at these 4 years, folks. The last 4 years, all the people that served with him, none of them come back. And you guys can remember 4 years ago, it's like a turnover like that. You nominate somebody, the next thing you hear 2-3 weeks is out. So those type of things, those I see him like that. But I just hope this time 4 years is going to learn from his previous 4 years, that is going to change things, not the way he did it 4 years ago. Because right now I'm seeing all his cabinet nominees, a lot of them are not expert in that field. But are they going to function and produce results? I don't know. Because sometimes when you put people, they need to be technocrats. They need to be expert in the field. Just like you, a lot of things that you, Rudolph, you have the idea of media. You've been glamorizing media. You know the media. And for me to come down into media, it's not. Or you put me to be in charge of public PRO, which I don't have the.
Yeah, just like the
idea.
expert in transport.
Exactly.
They put what's his name? Peter put the former transport secretary. He's an expert, right? And the former secretary of health, she's an expert too, because she's a lawyer. The other one, I don't even know what he does. Okay, we only heard about him of being able to babysit. See, that's my challenge. You people didn't scrutinize those people when they were brought into government. They brought somebody who had never handled transportation before to run transportation. You didn't go to say he's not an expert. They brought a lawyer who was in the health. You didn't say he's not an expert. But now you all find that everybody who is there is not a technocrat. He's not an expert. Come on, guys.
It's good because we want him to fail. It's good.
Yeah.
We want him to fail.
So let him fail. Then
Yes, we want him to fail.
Hold on,
Why
guys.
will you go and bring nonsense and put over there?
The guy who just left the office, are they experts?
Hold on, guys.
I'm asking you, are they experts?
Hold on.
Can I answer you, Eja?
No. Hold on. Don't answer him. So I wanted to point out there's somebody on the comment section, Easy D. I'm pointing it out because it says, shame on you, Michael, for being a Democrat. So this is some of the things I think in the 80s, you don't hear people say, I don't know if he's kidding or it's just serious, but these are not the kind of things that people say, but things have changed. And I'm not saying we are blaming Trump for all the changes in the language that people use, but it's more pronounced now than before. I see you, John Abba, and Michael. I think you're done.
Please, can I just reply briefly on the media? I would like to reply.
Yeah, no, hold on.
I would like to say.
Let me finish.
I'm not going to take long. I don't take too long.
Yeah, right. Jide doesn't take long. Don't believe that.
Okay. Yeah. That's what I want to point out too. That the media, we're talking about the media during Trump. I mean, you can see the era of Obama. What happened is that Trump get hold of the social media. He utilized the social media to his benefit. You can say anything now about this president, immediately go to the social to answer back. And that's politics in America today. If you are not able to answer back immediately, you cannot. That's what Trump, you are irrelevant. People don't see that. But Trump was able to utilize the social media to his own benefit, because he answered back immediately. And then you can see the nature of 24 hours news cycles came into being. I think it's CNN that started it during the Reagan administration. It was, what's it called, this man that started the CNN for 24 hours. So now that's what makes Trump so able to reach even the rural community, so those are the factors that enable him at this time around. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Michael. Jide, I just give you 2 minutes because I want to hear from John, then we'll continue with John Abba and I can Paul. Jide, 2 minutes.
Yeah, thank you so much. I would like to emphasize something. Maybe we know about it, or maybe I misunderstood John and Michael or something. So when you talk about left and right, in the Western world, particularly in the US, it has, during the Cold War, particularly after the decline of the Soviet Union in the 1980s, that narrative and ideology kind of changed. So let me explain what I'm trying to say. So the left in the West, it's leaned towards more of social issues, social ideology, not the economic ideology of the communists and the social democrats in Europe. So what you have is that, like the 80s, like I think Michael said it too, we started to have 24 hours news information during the era of Reaganomics under Ronald Reagan and the era of Margaret Thatcher. At that time, the propaganda of right-wing economic ideology dominated the West. So I would not say that the West have always been left-leaning. We've always had right-wing intellectuals, but when we talk about left-leaning, they're not talking about feminism, women's rights, LGBTQ+, racial issues, rather than capitalism in itself, socialism. So that kind of narrative changed. And that's why you see that Democrats and Republicans, they still have a lot of capitalists leaning in their political underpinning, even though, like I said, the Democrats, they tend to lean towards more of social issues and some things like regulations, state regulation of multinational corporations, but they're still kind of right-leaning. So I would like to emphasize on that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let me go to John. I want you to now answer the question about Muslim in Europe, Islam. I know that France has 10% of their population as Muslims. Belgium is 6.8. But the way we hear these stories about Islam taking over Europe, what do you think about that? How do you feel about that? Do you think it's something that will happen in 50 years? They are saying that by 2050, France will become majority Muslim.
Could be, unless people of Islam religion are so disgusted by the environment that they leave. It could well happen, because life is becoming so hard in Western Europe and so depressing, and so anti-religious, anti-freedom, anti-everything, over taxation. So, so much against all the natural inclination of living creatures and humans, that, knowing Africa and Africans, and I'm like, how can you be in Africa and want to live in this hellhole that Europe has become? I live in, in a way, I live in Africa because I work in Africa, and I would never want to work in Europe anymore. So I think that many Africans are now slowly opening their eyes to that reality, that it's not at all the El Dorado that they were promised, that they were sold by I don't know whom. And I think AI is going to make the place even harder to take, and to AI is going to make life unbearable practically. You'll have robots watching you, each and every one of your moves. There won't be much in terms of jobs. So that, plus the shitty weather that you have in Western Europe, is always so depressing. If you look at the statistics of suicides in northern countries like the Netherlands, Belgium, France, it's staggering, right? So many people commit suicide here because they lack exposure to the sun, just for that. So imagine when on top of it you have all the economic hardship, all the political BS, the taxation, and all the rest of it. Well, there's not much hope left, right? So, and I think many Muslims are going to arrive at the same conclusions, and many of them may just decide to turn around and leave.
Now, is the other side, the reverse not the case? Now, when you talk about Africa, you said you live in or you lived in Uganda. I know that in Uganda, Museveni is anti-gay and pushing policies. And if you look deep, sometimes you find out that it's actually Americans and European Christian activists who go to Uganda or some African countries and instigate these governments in Africa to put in those policies in place.
Mhm.
Are these things that people are running away from Europe? Are they not coming to Africa?
I think that there are more and more white people who are so disgusted by Europe that they would gladly settle down in Africa and live their life there. Me, for instance, I can't picture myself living in Europe. It's just it's not my vibe anymore. It has changed so much to what it was. As I said, most of the Western countries have become inverted versions of themselves over time. So I would probably, if I could settle down somewhere in Kenya or Namibia or something.
Why not Nigeria?
I've never been to Nigeria yet.
Oh, you never been to Nigeria?
Yeah. Maybe I would like it. Who knows?
Talk to Declan. He will give you a lowdown. I think you should come to Nigeria. I think before you claim that you've been in Africa, you should have to visit Nigeria.
Probably true. Yeah.
If you survive, then you say I lived in Africa.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, John. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. It's wonderful. Janaba.
Rudy.
So did you watch Trump, and what is your take on Trump?
Yeah, I watched it. Unfortunately, very depressing. Uh, a leader of a free
Were
world.
you not impressed that we are going to Mars?
You can go anywhere, but you have to conduct your way that whatever you are bringing should reflect a man of character and wisdom. And whatever you can do and not do cannot be put out just like that. I don't think whatever Trump is saying is new to so many people behind the scene, but and that is the reason why he always come because what people think is it's not for public consumption. It's something you say in your bedroom that he can boldly say it, and they say, okay, you may not say it, but he's telling what it is. You have to conduct yourself a certain way, like when KJ says that the way media cover him, the bias, I don't know what he's talking about. We can see with our own naked eyes. You can choose to turn blind eyes on those things, or you see a decent sentiment, but then you cannot say that what this man is saying is something that 21st century. Like Michael said, he have make use of this media because in media, no news is bad, no news is good. As far as you are out there, somebody will dare to grab it, even if it is wrong. They will want to see it. But at a certain point, you have to know that the world is watching. What history do you want to have behind you as we make a progress that is going to be something that people not going to want to relate to it in the future? I don't think nobody want to tell you today boldly from generation of Hitler. You can say that. And